Assalamu alaikum, it's Mubarak Ali Khan. I am double MA MPhil Linguistics and I am a teacher trainer. Today I'm going to talk about language barriers, particularly communication barriers which we have. Without wasting any further time, I'm going to share my data with you and let's see that how helpful it becomes to you too. Right. So today we'll talk about basically barriers to communication. In this, first of all, let's go to the introduction. That communication is the process of transferring knowledge, ideas, information, and thoughts from one person to another or a group of people. Though we live in the information age, communication barriers always exist. So from one side to the other side, and with some ideas, we have to shift. And from the other side to the first side, we have to bring back the data. And both of them, both the corners are meeting the needs and both of them are understanding the ideas. So it means that communication is taking place. But in this process, in two entities or two bodies, in this process, or every time there is a problem, every time there are a few things which put heavily themselves onto such things. So we need to understand that thing, and that is what we call barrier. Let's go into this. So this is a simple model of communication, and it says that we need to have a sender, and then we have to encode our our message which we have to send to the receiver, and then we need a message, as well as then we need a channel. For example, I'm talking to you, I'm using my laptop, I'm using internet, I'm using headphones and all. So this is my channel, and then I require a receiver. For example, I'm talking to you, maybe I'm alone at my place, but I'm thinking that there's going to be a huge number of people who are going to watch my video. So this is what we need to understand, our receiver as well as the decoding. For example, if I could have been doing this recording into, let's say, Hinko language, which I can speak as well, or maybe any other language which a few of you could be to be understandable too. So what I need to understand is that my receiver, my receiver, who's my receiver, so that he could decode my message. So I'm using English as a channel here, English as a language here, because I understand that most of my followers and most of my students would understand that what I'm trying to put. But this is not what we have to discuss today. Actually, we have to talk about the problems into this model, that how the things become adverse, how the things become difficult or different. You see on the left hand side on the screen, you could see that there's feedback. Every time after doing all this, we take a feedback. Since it's a one-way process, I'm talking to you and you're not live with me over here, so I cannot take my feedback. But while you are talking to someone, you are, for example, let's say in simple words, you're talking to someone and you ask him in Urdu maybe कि तुम्हें समझ आ रही है, आपको बात समझ आ रही है या नहीं समझ आ रही, तो इस तरह से आप feedback conduct करते हो. So this is what important is. But apart from this, let's say that everything is perfect over there, feedback was secure, everything was there, but still there is noise in the channel. For example, my microphone, my headphone is not working, maybe internet is not good, maybe recording is not properly done, or maybe I could not make my message properly, or maybe my receiver is not serious. So such kind of things, maybe a single noise, maybe I'm at my home and out there is some machine going on, someone is drilling at the upper story, or something can happen like this. So such kind of things we have to avoid, and we have to see that what kind of barriers do they come into, like how can we overcome such barriers. So this is a part of your homework as well. You need to work on it, you need to comment on it, you need to give your assignment to me on this, that in picture one, do you think that there is communication going on? Maybe a counselor is counseling, or a teacher is talking to a single student and he is sleeping, for example. Or number two, that what kind of process is going on, is there any communication? Number three, you can take example, maybe they're husband wife, or husband is just coming back from the office maybe. And the fourth one can be a boss and an employee. You need to understand this, and you need to briefly explain these pictures to me while keeping in mind the picture description, the way we did in the class as well. Moving on. This is also to be done by you, whosoever is watching me, can be any student, can be any follower, that what do you understand by the term barriers to communication. I'll be giving the content to you today, but you need to understand it well and you need to respond to me on this. State all the barriers that you can think of that impact your day-to-day communication. Which of the barriers to effective communication is the most difficult to deal with? Explain. I'll talk about such things, and then I'll take my feedback, and I'll be taking, I'll be checking you. So you need to pay good attention towards it too. Right. It says something that let's eat kids. And then it said, let's eat kids. So save a child, communication counts, right? For example, that punctuation matters. If I'm not putting a punctuation even, so the things will be different. इसका मतलब ये हो सकता है कि आओ बच्चे खाएं, और दूसरा हो सकता है आओ बच्चों खाओ या खाएं. So it is different, right? So moving on into the real scenario which I have to talk about. अभी तो हम background पे बात कर रहे थे. Let's move on to this. What is communication and what is barrier? Barrier to communication are the hindrances. For example, both of them want to talk and there is something in the middle, anything which obstructs, anything which disturbs, which stops the communication, are difficulties involved in the process of communication which distort the message from being properly understood by the receiver. For example, you see in the picture, there is one source which is happy that he is communicating, and there is the other source which is the receiver. So receiver is sad because in the meanwhile there was some noise, there was some barrier. So this is to be taken care of, that it's not only us who have to communicate, it should be on the next person as well, whether he understands it or not. They should understand it, they well understand it. For that we need to check a few things. So in short, barrier is something that obstructs or blocks. Anything which stops you being heard, anything which stops you being understood is a barrier. Okay, so a barrier can occur at any point in the communication process. For example, I'm talking to you and light goes. For example, my laptop is out of charge. For example, my headphone is not working. For example, I have bad throat. Anything can happen at any moment. So we need to understand that concept first. Barriers keep us away from understanding others' ideas and thoughts. So because of barrier, we cannot make the things so understandable. Because of the barrier, we cannot communicate well. Because of the barrier, our personal thoughts cannot be communicated to the next person. So another question I have from you, that is, have you ever been talking to someone and they misunderstood what you were saying? It's so common. We do it. Even we use the same language, but still there, you see, barriers are there every time. So why do you think that happens? These questions I want answers from you. So common barriers to communication. First of all, there's a physical barrier. Excuse me. Then we have psychological barriers, semantic barrier, personal barrier. Moving on, organizational barriers, cultural barriers, ethical barriers. We will talk about these all in detail today. You're going to stay with me for next 20 minutes, inshallah, almost. So after that, once we are live, once we are, you have different modes to reach me. If you are talking, if we are connected on WhatsApp, we are connected on YouTube, we're connected on Facebook, everywhere. So you can see me over there, and then inshallah we'll discuss that in detail. Let me put myself to the corner and let's come to the content here. Right, like he's like this, right? So physical barriers. So you see, there are three people. Maybe they are put in a way that in between them there is a wall, there is wood, or there is a cabin through which they cannot talk to each other while they are sitting or while they're standing even. So this is what simply called physical barriers, but it is not this simple. So what is physical barrier? Noise, any sound that prevents a person from being heard. Maybe ringing a telephone inside the room, inside the classroom, or maybe traffic, or maybe those of you are living near to any army base, or maybe living near to airport. So it is so simple, it is so obvious that planes are there everywhere. So maybe aeroplane is there, maybe sound of that as well, maybe a machine or a factory, such kind of noises which disturb you. Next is time and distance. Receiver has no time to listen. Too much distance between the sender and receiver. For example, maybe consider the one who is in hurry. Maybe your mother is in hurry and she's just trying to go for the shopping, and you just kept saying something to her, and in the end she said, I don't know what you have said to me. और वो आपकी बात पर ध्यान नहीं दे रही होती. तो इसलिए हमें ख्याल इस चीज़ का करना है कि हमें देखना है कि टाइम एंड डिस्टेंस मैटर करता है, वरना ये फिजिकल बैरियर में काउंट होगा. फॉर एग्जांपल, मैं क्लास में हूँ और उस क्लास में 5000 बच्चे हैं, कोई हॉल है उसमें 5000 बच्चे हैं, मेरा माइक काम नहीं कर रहा. तो जो माइक का काम ना करना है, दैट इज अ फिजिकल बैरियर टू मी. I need to understand that as well. Moving on, defects in the medium of communication. There can be defects in the medium. For example, हमारे केस में bad network, interruptions in telephone, or anything like that. The second barrier, which is so common and which is normally we don't understand it exists, but it does, that is psychological barrier. We need to understand it as well. That we take our, you see that there is a boy, a sweet boy, and a teacher sort of personality, or maybe a businessman or someone who's taking a glimpse on that person and trying to make his own ideas about that without talking to him. ठीक है, देखें आपका आपका जो दीन आपको सिखाता है वो क्या सिखाता है कि किसी के बारे में तब तक राय कायम ना करो जब तक 3 काम ना कर लो. नंबर 1 कि वो तुम्हारा पड़ोसी ना रहा हो, नंबर 2 कि आपने उसके साथ सफर ना किया हो, नंबर 3 कि आपने उसके साथ कोई लेन देन ना किया हो. इससे पहले आप किसी के बारे में राय कायम मत करें. इसको हम स्टीरियोटिपिकल अप्रोच कहते हैं. वी लुक एंड ऑन टू द पर्सन एंड वी कंसीडर हिम एज यू नो, वी मेक आवर थॉट्स अबाउट हिम. तो इसको हमें अवॉइड करना है. साइकोलॉजिकल बैरियर नहीं होना चाहिए. If you don't like a personality, it is so simple, it is so normal that you even won't like that whatsoever he will be saying as well. This is the case with the teacher as well. अगर आप किसी टीचर को पसंद नहीं करते तो चाहे जितना मर्जी अच्छा वो लेक्चर बेचारा दे रहा होता है, you don't pay attention towards that. So moving on, then you have psychological barrier. Look at the child, by the way, how hard is he struggling, or look at to the boy that how hard he is trying to convince the lady. So emotions, first of all, play an important role on how we perceive a message. The same message can be interpreted in a different way when we are angry or when we are in a calm and composed mood. For example, your mother, when you have to ask for the permission, let's say that you want to go to Murray, or maybe you have to go to some northern areas, and you have to seek permission from your father. So you take the tool as mother कि मामा आप बात करें. And मामा कहती हैं कि अभी तुम्हारे बाबा का मूड ठीक नहीं है, मैं उनसे चाय पे बात करूंगी या मैं उनसे बाद में बात करूंगी. So you see, mood matters a lot. We need to understand that as well, that in whichsoever mood the next person is. Sometimes we do what we don't want to do and then we say, sorry, I was in anger, I didn't want to do that, but I did that. So अच्छा तरीका ये होता है कि जब आप गुस्से में हैं तो आप कम से कम बात करें, और अगर आप खड़े हुए हैं तो बैठ जाएं, बैठे हुए हैं तो खड़े हो जाएं. पोजीशन चेंज करें ताकि आपका जो अंदर का स्टेट ऑफ माइंड है वो चेंज हो जाए. राइट? तो इसका हमें ख्याल करना बहुत जरूरी है. सो लैक ऑफ सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस एज वेल, ये हमने खुद से अपने अंदर किया हुआ होता है कि मैं नहीं बात कर सकता, मैं कैसे करूंगा, हाउ वुड आई डू दैट, नो इट इज सिंपली इम्पॉसिबल, आई कैन नॉट टॉक इन फ्रंट ऑफ 5000 पीपल, आई कैन नॉट टॉक इन फ्रंट ऑफ 1 lakh पीपल. आपको ये समझना है कि व्हाटएवर इज गोइंग इनसाइड यू, दिस इज व्हाट यू नो ओनली. None of the persons available over there knows कि आपके अंदर क्या चल रहा है. So don't show it to others, okay? Stay confident. You have to be confident, and then you have to, you see that you have to talk. What's the difference in that? You had been talking since you had been born. Maybe you had been crying or cooing or babbling or one word or two word or phrase. From there you started and now you are this much good, you can talk well. So don't worry about those things, okay? Don't have this barrier on you and don't ruin your communication. Moving on a little, psychological barrier then. Again, there's a selective perception that कि ये वाला बच्चा ऐसा है, ये वाला बंदा ऐसा है, ये वाला बच्चा ऐसा है. So we create our perception and we do the things, or we take the things which we really want to. Otherwise, we don't pay attention towards the talk. For example, if you don't want to listen to me, you will just simply skip this video. Or maybe you can, you see that you hardly just listen to it, but you don't pay attention towards me. Maybe it is imposed on you, for example. So this selective perception, you see, we all perceive only the part of message which is of our interest based on our experience and background. So one more thing, once you are communicating, you have to give something which the next person wants. देखिए communication का एक simple rule है, communication can never be from many to one. For example, I am in the class and all the students are saying something to me and I won't be able to understand, and then आपको पता है normally teacher says कि क्या कहते हैं वो जी, one by one हाथ खड़ा करके बात करें. So because it prevents to being so it prevents being heard, so we cannot understand that. You need to understand this as well. It can be always from one to many. For example, I'm talking to you, and if this video is to be reached to so many people, so all of them are understanding me, as compared to that if it could have been 7-8 speakers over here and all the speaker could have been spoken at the same time, so it could not have made any change. You understand that? Moving on, laziness. It is so common, by the way. We become lazy. We do not try to repeat the things again and again. We try to do the thing for once. We try to go for shortcuts. We try to do the things easy. We want easy peasy things. So what we should understand is that we need to avoid laziness, okay? So it is also a hindrance, a psychological. Acha, it is this video is not only that okay ji, these are the areas we need to understand. No, we need to see that what to do for that as well. First of all, consider the cultural makeup of the intended audience. For example, I got my Sindhi friends, and the Sindhi friends, once they, whenever they meet someone, they have their hands like this and they say khushayo, khushayo, khushayo. This is their way to say greetings. In Punjabi, when you do this thing, we try to show him that bhai meri jaan chhode. Okay? So it is different. We need to understand one communication part is different for the other one. For example, I say, okay, wind up. That means that I have just completed my task. I have completed my lecture. Consider we are standing in front of ICU and a doctor comes out and say, okay, wind up. So maybe he wants to say that okay, your patient is expired, like the case is closed, he's no more. So we need to understand this, and we need to understand the cultural makeup. It varies from culture to culture. Seek to understand the differences. This is the key to be a good communicator. If we don't understand the differences, if we cannot respect the differences, things won't be in order. For example, we expect the same from the boy as well as from the girl. They are different as well. We need to understand this thing. It is so simple to understand that everyone has his or her own abilities, and those abilities should not be, questioned or challenged. Frame the message in such a way that it conveys what you mean and also takes those differences into account. So we need to understand, हमें ऐसा message बनाना है जो कि सामने वाले बंदे को समझ आए, उसको हमारी बात समझ आए. हम हर बंदे से different बात करते हैं. For example, I'm talking to my office boy, that will be different. When I'm talking to HOD, that will be different. When HOD is talking to the rector, that will be different. And this is how we need to understand that. We need to make the communication. So next is semantic barrier. Okay, look at this poor cat. Maybe she's somewhere in China. Excuse me. Sorry, I can't take water. I'm fasting. So there is maybe a little scratch in the throat. Miscommunication. When you said you would like to have me for dinner, this is not what I imagined. For example, उसको लगा कि आप मेरे साथ डिनर करेंगे का मतलब ये कि हम दोनों बैठेंगे और डिनर करेंगे. इसका मतलब मुझे ये तो नहीं पता था, कि मुझे ये नहीं महसूस हुआ था कि आप मुझे ही डिनर में लेना पसंद करेंगे. For example, you're eating me in dinner. We in Pakistan, in India or such where we don't do this. Otherwise, in China, you never know. Anything can happen. Semantic language barriers. Lack of common language, first of all. We don't have common language, and we try to understand the things regarding to our own our own language acquisition device. So we go accordingly. Variance in expression or colloquialism is common even among those who speak the same language. Colloquialism, this concept. Colloquialism देखें, एक तो ये है कि regional colloquialism होते हैं जो कि हमने खुद से अपनी society में बनाए हुए होते हैं. For example, the word which is so common in Pakistan, that is easy load. Maybe this word is not as in United States. वहाँ पर अगर मेरे पास सामान पड़ा है और साथ कोई ट्रॉली है और मैं किसी से कहता हूँ can you please do the easy load, तो वो मेरा सामान लोड करना शुरू कर देगा. As compare के पाकिस्तान में कहूँ कि यार I need easy load, तो वो कहेगा कितने का चाहिए आपको, 50 का, 60 का and stuff. So we need to understand that as well. Colloquialism हर जगह पर ये apply नहीं होते. Poor vocabulary. This is also there. Consider the concept of drama Bulbule. In that there's a character Momo, the one who forgets the words every time. Uska ye wo hota hai stuff. So what's happening that if you have a poor vocabulary, then you become that character. You cannot communicate well. You're not giving your 100%. You're not being understood well. So you should have appropriate vocabulary. Having good vocabulary is a blessing, but having less vocabulary and using it in a proper way, that is your smartness. It is required in communication. It is not that you know quite many words. It is that you use quite many words, and whenever these are being required, and you use them. Next is poor grammar or punctuation. For example, your grammar is poor, your punctuation is poor. In spoken, grammar matters, and punctuation normally matters in written as well. Use of jargons, technical words, metaphors, as far as possible. For example, a particular kind of class has particular kind of talk. And if two people are from the same class, so they understand those metaphors. For example, we are here in Pakistan, so we keep saying to each other, would you like to come to the tea? And then someone replies, the tea is fantastic. And we understand what does it mean. It has become a metaphor now. But if we say to someone else, for example, we're saying somewhere in USA, someone who doesn't know it, so he'll say, okay, that he's fantastic, so I'm coming. So like we cannot make fun in the same kind of metaphors to someone who is not from the same background. Next, now what to do to prevent this scenario as well? Minimize the use of slang and idioms when delivering the message. For example, you're entering into your home and there is an accident out there, God forbid, and there is a problem, and you're meeting your cousin and you're saying, sorry, your father kicked the bucket. Then he will say, कि तुम क्यों sorry कर रहे हो यार? किसकी बाल्टी थी? कहाँ पे मार दिया? क्या हुआ? So just to, you see, understand this concept that actually kick the bucket means that someone has passed away. So we cannot communicate in that way to the other one. So we need to understand this, lesser use of idioms or slangs as well. Okay. For example, I am talking to my own father who was not from the age where texting was so common, and he kept calling me again and again, and I called and I said to my dad, TTYL. And dad will be more angry कि तुम क्या फजूल मुझे मैसेज करते, क्या चीज थी वो? And then I say, dad, TTYL is basically talk to you later. So we need to understand this thing. हमें अपने जो concepts हैं दूसरे के मुताबिक use करने पड़ते हैं ताकि barriers कम से कम हो. Moving on, keep the language simple and free from jargons and metaphors. Make clarity and simplicity the goal over showcasing linguistic ability. Do not showcase your linguistic ability. Okay, for example, I'm saying it is more arduous, obnoxious, and malignant thing for me to deliver the lectures online as compared to delivering into the classroom in a on-campus class. हो सकता है कि मैं अपनी बात नहीं समझा पाया और मैंने इतनी showcasing की है अपनी language की. For example, and actually I wanted to say that I hate online teaching. Rather, I like on-campus teaching. बात तो सिर्फ इतनी सी थी, लेकिन उसके लिए मैंने arduous, obnoxious, malignant और इस तरह के words put किए. So we need to understand this कि जो हमारे सामने वाला बंदा है, he should understand a simple और clear message होना चाहिए ताकि वो communicate हो सके. I cannot take your feedback. I'm sorry, I have to keep talking and talking and talking. But still, if there is something which is problematic for you, and wheresoever you feel that you need to talk to me, then if we are connected on LMS, maybe in NAML, Foundation, Islamic, anywhere, so you need to understand that as well, that you can leave your comments over there. You can ask over there once it's our class time. But if you're on YouTube or somewhere, then definitely in the comment section or Facebook likewise. Social barriers. Social barriers, it is normally so common. It is everywhere. And this is a huge barrier to communication and includes many factors such as conflict, violent and abusive situations, ability to read and write in particular language or style. So it is so much. So I'm not going into that. I'm trying to show that how to overcome this because it is so common barrier. I'm not going deep into detail since the duration is extended as well. First, you have to build a good relationship with the person so that he or she will feel more secure in your company and will also trust you more. You have to consider that, you have to make the trust. Or if the person did not want to communicate with you at that time, you could always delay the time until he or she has calmed down. It is not that someone is not in the mood to listen to you and you keep poking your nose inside. You have to get stopped somewhere. You see, the best presenters and the best communicators are those who know that how to adapt with the time and how to get, how to put yourself into the place where you really want to. If you guys wanted to see this lady, so I did it for you. Moving on, there are some personal barriers. अच्छा, अभी ये जो चीज है इसमें ये सबसे ऊपर ये चीज है, साइकोलॉजिकल बैरियर के टाइप में समझ लें इसको आप, बट इट इज एवरीवेयर, इट इज सो कॉमन. इस पे ध्यान दीजिए. Our personal attitude, when the person who delivers the message is not comfortable with the message, he or she can never deliver it properly. For example, मुझे कोई मैथ्स का concept दे दिया जाता अभी यहाँ पर, I could not have been talking the way I'm trying to talk now, since it is matter of my interest. That's why I'm trying to be so open onto this, and my examples maybe are relevant. Lack of confidence in subordinates. If there is no good relationship between managers and subordinates will never communicate effectively. For example, they know कि manager ने अपनी ही last में करनी है, या for example teacher ने हमारी बात सुननी नहीं, जो उन्होंने करना है, उन्होंने जो कहना है उन्होंने वही कहना है. So it is not good. So you need to understand this as well, that there should be a good relationship between the sender and the receiver, and message must be well formulated, as well as you should try to avoid the barriers. Right? Message overload. If too many messages are going on in the mind, one cannot communicate information to other properly. The reason is that when there is overload of message, for example, in the past, my slides, which had 1 or 2 lines on one slide, that was digestible. But now the slides, you see the data is being overloaded over here, and you're saying, कि यार अभी ये भी पढ़ना है, ये भी देखना है. So it becomes tough. Last 5 minutes with me, inshallah, then I'll be concluding it. Few other personal barriers, level of interpersonal trust between people. Number one. Number two, stereotypes and prejudice. मैंने stereotypes के बारे में आपसे बात कर ली है. Prejudice, that you have your own prejudice, that I am the teacher, how come a student can teach me? But it is not the case. Everyone has his or own ideas. Or for example, I am the HOD, how can a teacher talk to me like that? So you need to understand this as well. If you have stereotypes and prejudice in you, you won't be learning, and rather you won't be communicating well, because you won't be taking the message well. Egos, remove it right now. Once you are in the ego, you are misinterpreted, and you misinterpret as well. Poor listening skills, for example, if you have any problem, this is a physical barrier as well. And tendency to evaluate or judge a sender's message. Every time, whatsoever you hear, you keep questioning that. ठीक है, being inquisitive is fine, but keep asking again and again the same thing can, disturb the next person, can annoy the next person. Inability to listen with understanding as well, that you don't have understanding and you have no ability, and you don't, you pay attention, you are not patient at all. That is to be taken care of as well. Organizational barriers, maybe wrong choice of medium. For example, the prevailing situation, the pandemic situation. So there is a no proper medium. For example, online classes, someone is taking on WhatsApp, someone is on Zoom, someone is taking on Skype, someone is taking on LMS. There are different things. So we need to see this thing as well. And this is the barrier which organizations should remove. They should be onto the same page. Status relationship, maybe messages will not be reported properly if subordinates are scared of the managers. That is, we have also discussed as well. And lengthy process, if the hierarchy is too long, any communication upward or downward will take a long time to reach persons. There is upward and downward communication, as well as there is horizontal communication. We will talk about that in detail some other day. So last thing, that how can we overcome the barrier? Take the receiver more seriously. Think more clearly about the message. Deliver a message skillfully. Focus on the receiver. Focus on your attitude, that the next person is understanding me or not. Use multiple channels and encoding. For example, this lecture may be found on YouTube, maybe on different way. Maybe our WhatsApp group is there for discussion. Maybe you can call me directly. So there must be different channels. And then you can reach me back. Secure appropriate feedback. In the end, you have to secure an appropriate feedback. For example, the people who are liking my videos, they're giving me an appropriate feedback, so that motivates me. For example, my students, if they're asking questions, that motivates me, that they're not passive hearer, they're active listeners. And above all, anger. If you have anger in you, you're not good communicator. You're not communicating. You are yelling. You're yelling. You are screaming. You are shouting. You're not communicating. Remove anger from you to be the best communicators. Thank you so very much for patient hearing. And apart from all this, the thing which matters to me a lot is your comment, is your questioning. And most importantly, that if you have anything to share with me, anything you feel that must be communicated to me, then I'm available. I'm available online. My email address is mubarakali541@gmail.com. You can directly reach me on that as well. And on Facebook, I am with Mubarak Ali Khan. That's the name. So those of you who are new with me over here, it's high time to understand the communication. And I'll be completing this course with you online, inshallah. So those of the students who are suffering and those of you who have any problem related to this, don't worry, inshallah, things will be fine. We will be back into our classes. We will be, going well. And please stay home, stay safe, and take care of your families, and offer your prayers regularly, and do not hurt anyone. Thank you so very much. That was Mubarak Ali Khan. Allah Hafiz. See you inshallah next time. Bye-bye.